I'm recording now, Brian.
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
Shall we begin?
Let's do it.
Hello. All right.
Hello, Brian.
Hello,
Where are
Renee.
we? What is this? Do we have a show?
I feel like this is the end of the show. This is the buzz, that people get to see afterwards.
No, this is the beginning.
Great.
No editing today.
Welcome to Flick This Movie. I'm Brian Glass.
And I'm Renee Garcia.
Today we're going to be reviewing Stuber. Renee, let's roll the trailer.
I am rolling now, Brian.
Please be a 5-star ride.
Hey! Uber?
Yeah, be cool, be nice. I'm Stu. How do you do?
Compton. I'm LAPD. Let's go.
Or do you have a more specific address?
Compton!
Stop yelling, neighborhoods. That's not how
Okay.
Uber works.
All right. That's enough. That's enough of that, Brian. I hope you made funny faces because I tried to play along this time. I hope I looked in the... Yeah, I did look in the right direction. Okay, good. Yeah. A little bit of magic. I'm revealing some of the behind-the-scenes action going on. Okay,
yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I was looking up at the trailer.
The trailer floating above our heads. You're right. What am I doing? So, Stuber, Brian.
Stuber.
Let me just say that I went in with very low expectations. And I wouldn't say that my expectations were necessarily exceeded, but the movie's not without its charm. And I also thought it was a fairly, I want to, the word I'm looking, or I want to say is prototypical, but I don't know if that's the most accurate word. I just felt like it adhered to the structure that a screenplay should adhere to. And, you're watching the first act and you can see the relationships and you can see, what are the struggles these different characters are going to have to overcome. And then, you get to this midpoint where, they have this, this kind of like this, I guess I'm not spoiling anything by saying it. Well, maybe I am, but basically there's a confrontation between the two of them halfway through the movie, and you can just see like, oh, well, even in this confrontation, there's a little bit of bonding. And you can, the movie is predictable, I guess is what I'm getting at. But predictability is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, so that's my overall take. Now, this is purportedly a comedy, so let me just talk about the comedy. The comedy, it's this modern, very modern kind of comedy where people don't talk the way real people talk. Right. And I think, the first time I noticed this phenomenon was with Juno. I didn't actually see the movie, but from the trailers, it's like Ellen Page, she's supposed to be this high school student, and just the way she speaks, was a little too, at least from the trailer, mind you, this is all from, an opinion coming from the trailer. It just seemed a little too self-aware for a high school student who should be concentrating on other things. Like other things should be more important to this person's life as a teenager, right? So I felt like that style of comedy, it just infected so much of the comedy we see today from all of the super bad writer
Judd Apatow. Yep.
Okay, and then also man. This is what happens when we record it at the end of my workday. I don't know anyone's names anymore.
That guy.
Avengers, Buffy.
Joss Whedon.
Thank you. It's like pulling a splinter out of my brain.
I'm here for you, buddy.
Like the Matrix. It's like, oh, okay, the blood can flow again. All right.
Get it, Neo.
I almost want to do like a little lean back. Anyway. Yeah, so it's that kind of like everyone is the same. Not so much in this case. I mean, I'm not even going to try to attempt to pronounce the lead actor's name here, Stu. His real name, what's his name? Like Neil and Nail.
Kamali. Oh.
Am I saying his name right?
Kamail Nanjiani.
Oh, is it Kamali? I don't know why I thought it was Nail or Neil. Maybe that's
Kamail
my Indian coworker I'm thinking of.
Nanjiani.
Okay. Anyway, he kind of represents that comedy that I'm talking about. I mean, the big guy. Help me.
Dave Bautista.
Yes, you can tell I paid a lot of attention to this movie. He actually does feel like his own character, and he doesn't quite represent the same comedy. But from the very opening scene, from the first act, you have these cops who are, just having this kind of, I don't know, an inappropriate conversation as they're about to do this bust. And it's like, no, cops don't talk like this.
Right.
Anyway, with that said, I don't know that I didn't have a good time. When you go into a film like this and as long as you're dialing in your expectations to the right level, you can walk away satisfied, right? You go to Taco Bell, you're not expecting a gourmet dinner, okay? As long as you go and getting what you expect, how can you say that they didn't do their job? So there we go, Brian. Based on that, I don't know, do we flick movies before the full review, or do we flick them? Can we do a halfway flick?
I think that you can flick whenever the flick you want.
I would not flick this movie.
All right. Well, that's interesting, because I'm going to tell you right out of the gate that I would absolutely flick this movie.
Yeah.
For a lot of the reasons that you just said. This is a variation on a buddy cop movie. Obviously, you got the reluctant ad hoc partner joined with the ailing cop with the vendetta. Okay. I look at these movies kind of like you do. That what's going to happen. Of course they're predictable. To me, it's like a rom-com. We kind of know how it's going to start, how it's going to end, and the magic is in what happens along the journey. That's what's interesting about rom-coms to me. It's like, of course, the rare instance where they don't end up together, okay, they're going to break the mold a little bit, but I'm okay with them not. And this was very much script by numbers, because it did hit all those beats that you kind of expect. It's almost like a good stew. There's going to be some broth and some meat, but what are the different ingredients are going to be in there? What are the proportions are going to be there? How do they interact with one another? I mean, it's
quite the analogy. Or did you just use that because the character's name is Stu?
Well,
Okay.
That's how I roll.
I
would have to say that in this case, this stew was somewhat undercooked. Hey, now. So there are definitely things I liked about it, and I think that you're kind of in the same place. I like Dave Bautista. I thought, maybe you can take a couple seconds and talk about Jason Momoa, but I would say that maybe they're kind of like in that same echelon of actors. And I like Dave Bautista kind of almost automatically just because he's got somewhat of a charm and a charisma. But I also enjoyed his acting in this. I felt like he wasn't given a lot, but he was like nuanced enough for this role. You know what I mean? Enough that I was like, cool. I think he did a really good job with it. I was interested in the character. Every time he was on screen, he was interesting to me, and I had no problem with him. I also liked the lady who played his daughter, Natalie Morales.
Wow, the name.
I looked
you
it
must
up.
have something in front of you.
No, never. I never come prepared.
Okay.
I think she did as much as was like humanly possible for her to do in this role, because she was barely in the movie.
I understand.
But she was always interesting. The camera just loved her when she was on.
That's what I'm saying.
So, not again to spoil anything. I wish there was a little bit more of her, but I'll get into more. I'll get into more of that later. I actually know her from Parks and Rec.
That's why.
Yeah, she's good.
I don't watch TV, folks.
I do. But the jokes, this is supposed to be an action comedy, right?
Yeah.
And the jokes were like relentless, just relentless,
Yeah.
and like all of the same ilk, all on the same level. And
right.
I would say the vast majority I didn't find funny.
Yeah.
And that's a problem in action comedy when you don't find the things funny. And I'm totally in line with you that all the one-liners were very much along the lines of Judd Apatow, almost like this guy who wrote it back in the 90s or something. When this is kind of like, this was the thing that people like to do, and people were like, oh, super bad for the first time, or the 40
Sure.
or virgin or something, and they're throwing out those lines left and right. And at that time it was fresh and it was fun, and that kind of died away, and I think that it even died away for Appetite. I don't think he even does that anymore. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's kind of come and gone. So I would say that the other side of this, of being an action comedy, is that I'm supposed to at least enjoy the action, right?
Right.
I mean, this is like Fast and Furious. I'm supposed to at least enjoy the action. If I don't enjoy the story, it better be some really good action.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was pretty disappointed by the action too, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, there were some interesting things that they did. I will say that the bad guy that they set up in the beginning is not your typical bad guy.
Iko Kowace. I hope I'm saying his name right.
I don't know, but in the script, his name was
Tejo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I just jump in here, Brian? Interrupt your thought. So I was just thinking. Let's go back to the comedy for a second. I was just thinking about how to best describe it. I think it is like one revolution of the evolution of this kind of comedy, in that it's less about, or at least coming from Kowali. I'm sorry, I can never remember his name.
Kumali.
Kamali. We'll just call him Stu. So the kind of comedy that Stu represents it's less about the self-aware and more about the inner monologue that describes everything flatly. Like, just says everything that is self-evident, right? Like the comedy, there's during the confrontation where the two guys, they duke it out, then they fall down because they're tired.
Yeah.
Stu falls down and says, "Wow, fighting is exhausting," right? And it's like, okay, self-evident. We see that through your acting, right? So it's this kind of like, I don't know. I wanted to say ironic, like ironic dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And that can work. That can be very effective. But when it's everything, when that's everything he says, essentially, like we'll say, more than 50%, okay, is that kind of dialogue that it doesn't contribute, it just describes what you're watching. It loses its effectiveness very quickly.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think one of the reasons is that people don't talk like that.
Right, yeah.
But people will maybe after the fact remark about it. So let's say he was the third character, not one of the primary two, but he's off to the side. He's the sidekick, and he's commenting on what's going on.
Yeah, that was awkward, or something like that, right?
It's interesting. Not when he's like taking a dual lead, right? He's one of the two leads, and you can't. It's just like there was so much of it that I found it exhausting to listen to him.
Yeah.
Like he's never, he's not going to get out anything important until, the music tells me he's about to say something important. You know what I mean? Yeah. Otherwise, it's just going to be another joke, And I think that it would have been interesting if Bautista's character, Vic, maybe he called him a little bit more on, what he's doing by joking. What does that say about him? Since so much of the movie is spent analyzing, the main character, Vic, and, his underpinnings. Yeah. Why not turn it on its head a little bit? Mr. Jokey.
Absolutely.
But they don't do that. They don't do that. This is not a movie that's going to challenge anyone. It doesn't challenge us. So,
well, let me just say one more thing here. I hope you can hang on to your train of thought after I've derailed it twice here. You mentioned something about action, and, Iko Kowace. Once again, I hope I'm saying his name right. One of my favorite action stars from the Raid movies and some of the other Indonesian films that I've seen on like Netflix or whatever, right? Like, I really feel like that is the next, as I talked about the revolution of evolution here. I really hope that is the next revolution of action movies to come to the U.S. because it's very visceral. I mean, it's over the top, but it doesn't feel as I don't want to say floaty or
produced.
Well, okay, yeah, there you go. I mean, obviously it's very choreographed, right? But it just has more of a punch. It doesn't feel as artsy as the stuff we've seen before.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit
Yeah.
of that. I know he's kind of kinetic, and it's
Yeah.
interesting to watch. And it doesn't use camera tricks; it uses actual people doing their stunts.
There you
It's
go.
cool.
Bingo.
Yeah, you don't have
So
to do the close ups. You can take a one shot, of them actually fighting, and they can do it.
totally.
Yeah,
And it's just unfortunate that he's kind of wasted here. Like they have him, early on, he's like descending down these balcony things or whatever. And it's like, this is more of a Jackie Chan play than an eco play, right? That's all.
that sounds interesting. Not an ecological play, people. Okay, the other type of eco play. Well, it's interesting. I'm just going to go ahead and bridge off of what you said with him, because I loved his fighting. I thought that was really cool, and the amount of abuse that he could dish out and take was just like, it was cool to see that. I hadn't seen a good fight scene from someone who's maybe, I wasn't expecting it like that. Maybe since Mission Impossible, the last Mission Impossible, I thought that was, in the bathroom scene, that was just really, really cool. So that was interesting, but I didn't care about him at all, because you said maybe he was underused. I mean, he was totally underused to me.
Right.
Like
yeah.
I knew nothing about him other than what he is purporting to do. That's it. And I'm not supposed to like him for that. And I will say a bit more of this in the spoiler section, but I will say that we spent a little bit too much time with characters I didn't care about, and not enough time developing characters that I should care about to make the movie a little bit more effective.
Okay. So Brian, do you have more before the spoiler break?
Just a little bit, in terms of action comedies, I was trying to think of ones that I've seen, like maybe recently, that I liked, where they did the formula well. And I thought, surprisingly, I mean, I was probably the most surprised that I liked this.
Okay.
21 Jump Street.
I haven't seen either.
What's the other one? 22, you mean?
Yeah.
I didn't see 22 either. I didn't want to ruin it, because I thought 21 Jump Street was such a fun romp, and I was so surprised by it.
Okay.
I was like grinning the whole time, because they do so much to subvert expectations in that one.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, you lower the bar because you're not expecting a lot from a movie like that. What's that?
Taco Bell, not
I
gourmet.
said Aquaman. I'm like, yeah, that too.
Hey now.
The Nice Guys, another one where I thought it was, well done for the genre. I mean, it wasn't the best, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. All right.
I think that's definitely in the higher. But this one was just like, at certain times I felt like I was watching a more adult version of Home Alone. And I'm like, this, especially in that scene in the sporting goods store.
Okay.
This is just a waste of my time.
Yeah.
This is terrible. So, okay. And then I would also say that one last thing about the guy who played Stu, Kamail Nanjiani. I really like him in Silicon Valley. Okay. And that's a TV show, Renee. And,
I know, Brian. Middle out.
And he's really, he's really effective in it, because he's not the lead, and he's doing a little bit more of that commentary.
Yeah.
He's doing it more dryly, and he's doing it in a way that it just kind of supports the scene. It makes every scene just a little bit more interesting that he's in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that he can't carry a movie or a role, because I was really a big fan of that other one. What is it? The Big Sick, that he wrote.
I have people in my life who tell me I need to watch that movie. It's really good. I have not seen it yet. So is this another endorsement, Brian?
I definitely give it an endorsement.
All right.
I mean, it's an extremely different role, though.
Yeah.
So I feel like knowing that he has the comedic chops and he has the dramatic chops for the Big Sick, I was hoping for more from him here. And I felt like the direction he was given is no, louder, more obnoxious. Okay, I guess I can do that. You know what I mean? So I don't know how much to put on him or on the director.
No, that's a very good point. It's a very good point.
Yeah. So I guess other than that, like I said, I would absolutely flick this movie, even with my lowered expectations.
All right, Brian.
And
we should have an opposite of flick, since you got one flick and one non-flick. What would that be?
Fist. No.
Fist this movie. Well, whatever. We'll have to work on the branding.
Sorry if we just lost 20% of our viewers.
I know.
With my bad joke.
Yeah, now we're down to 3. the 3 viewers. We lost that one guy. Okay, so spoiler break, everybody. We should probably have a little spoiler break thing
Spoiler
here.
break.
Some music. You have to
Oh,
drum
yeah?
something up for us, Brian.
Oh, God.
Beatbox
All right, cool.
it. Oh,
Spoiler.
yeah, there you
Spoilers.
go. That's what we're talking about. All right. So let me just say, I still have the trailer like frozen on my other monitor here. And just seeing Kamail, am I saying his name right? Am I finally getting it?
Yeah.
Anyway, just seeing his face and, he's got the big bushy eyebrows just reminds me of Eugene Levy and Samuel L. Jackson in their buddy cop movie that they did. I don't know what Eugene Levy's role was, but he was obviously he was playing the Stu character, but I don't know why he was forced to like drive Samuel L. Jackson around. Do you remember this movie?
Yeah, it's ringing like a bell, but
Part of the trailer, and this was meant to be funny. He tells Samuel L. Jackson that I'm taking a mental picture of you, and then he blinks very purposefully. Right, and then they do a little camera shutter sound effect with it, and I'm like, how is that funny? Who thought that was funny? You know what I mean?
it was funny hearing you say it.
Well, yeah, because I'm perplexed by it. In any event, okay. So, one part that let me just say that I was once again low expectations, and it was just kind of like flat until we got to a certain point. And at this point, I was like, you know what? I can allow myself to kind of enjoy my time watching this movie. It's when he goes to the strip club and they subvert expectations. Oh, it's a male strip club.
Right.
Right? But that's not the part that I thought was funny. When the male stripper, when he is like when Stu is providing emotional support to the male stripper, and then the girl that Stu likes, Becky, is that her name? Becca. And she calls him, and then the stripper is now providing him like bro support, right? And I just thought it was pretty funny. Like, you guys are gonna fuck. I was like, oh, dude, that's hilarious.
I thought we weren't supposed to cuss.
Oh, I'll bleep that out, Brian.
Quote unquote. Quoting the movie.
Hey, man, we're in the spoiler break. Everything goes here. Anything goes, and everything. Well, we're down to two viewers this time, Brian. What are you gonna do? Lost another 25%.
Let's see if we can get rid of the other ones.
All right, Brian. So, it's little moments like that I thought were like,
but
oh,
honestly,
hey, he's kind of cute.
That scene, didn't you feel like it was pretty telegraphed as far as what was going to happen with the
What do
two
you
of
mean?
them? Didn't you feel like they were going to have that bonding moment when Bautista went off and talked to Titier?
Oh, well,
I chuckle
yeah.
every time that joke was said.
I know. Yeah, well, like I said earlier, this movie was very predictable, and you also knew when he was like, I got to find a neutral background. You knew some dude was going to walk behind him for no reason to show off his schlong on this, the little FaceTime. Now we're down to one viewer, Brian. Schlong.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I guess I was kind of rolling my eyes when I saw it. Like, of course he's going to be there supporting him. Of course there's going to be this happening. Of course he's going to call when he leaves. It's like, I felt like there was nothing original about this movie. Like he just jigsaw, puzzle pieced everything together from other movies, and like, I got one too now. And to me, it was, it felt lazy. Like I wanted more, and I think that he had so many interesting pieces that he could have used differently. Yeah, and that's why I was annoyed. I have a feeling the show, this movie is going to become, what this movie could have been.
Right.
Or, excuse me. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like the show comes from me, because I get frustrated every time I see something that's interesting underutilized.
Brian's rewrite challenge.
No. I do have some thoughts, but it's mostly around something else. But I'll let you continue your spoiler-rich discussion.
Well, it's not really much else to say, really.
It really isn't.
Yeah, no, really, there isn't. So I let's see, what else didn't I like? I didn't like. Sorry, I wanted to talk about laziness here and like stitching a lot of concepts together. That just kind of like interrupted what my other thought. But I'll just move on to something else. One thing I thought was stupid, and I thought like, well, this is convenient and unexplained, is, they fight in the sporting goods store,
Yes.
right? Bautista and Kamail. Kamail, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Nanjiani.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Nanjiani. They're fighting, and then the guy, Stu's, his rival, if you will, lives at the store. He comes out with a crossbow. Do you remember that?
I didn't know he was living there or just there for some reason. I didn't know why he was there.
Well, that's the thing. It seemed like he was living there, like he sleeps there.
That would have been funnier if they had just dropped that notification, like that's what's happening here.
Well, it wasn't explained, right? And I think they should have explained it at least.
Right.
So let me just say something about what you said that kind of like got my mind going about what it could have been, right? Like with this concept, this is one of those like tried and true concepts. Like, okay, we all get how it's going to go down. You got, the gruff cop and then the civilian, and they somehow find like common ground, right? Worlds colliding, and they become friends, right?
Right.
And that, that's always compelling, right? Like two people are forced into this situation together, and for whatever reason, they can't get out of it. I know they, some of it seems like kind of convenient that he can't get out. I got your keys or whatever, right?
I can't see, but I got your keys.
What's that?
I can't see, but I did get your keys.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just, things like that. And I just feel like, if this was a concept that, if I was like a writer for hire, right? It's like, Renee, come in here. We need you to be a script doctor on this thing. Punch it up. There were things that I would do to make, make Stu a little more rounded, give him a little more peaks and valleys. But I don't know that would serve the purpose of selling the movie, right? Like, I think the producers in the studio, they know that this movie is Taco Bell, right? Mm-hmm. And it's going to go to a Taco Bell audience that probably wouldn't really care. They wouldn't be able to distinguish if it was gourmet. Does that make sense, Brian?
It does.
So why invest more into making it gourmet for an audience that can't tell that it is gourmet?
Well, I think there's a good reason for that, and that is those movies like I mentioned earlier, especially like the 21 Jump Street, where, it's super low expectations. It probably didn't do that great coming out the gate.
Okay.
But people started talking about it because, like, hey, this is actually fun and funny. You should go see this. And you get word of mouth, and then it has some legs, and then it's the surprise hit of the whatever. You know what I mean?
But
of the spring or summer. It did really well.
Okay.
I only saw it because I'm like, why are so many people talking about this?
All right.
Oh, this is surprisingly good. Okay. So word of mouth does travel. And I think a script doctor coming in could have worked with this, actually. I think there were some interesting things here. I think there were some really odd choices that they made, though. If I can kind of cut in for a second.
Yeah, of course.
To me, the character, and I alluded to this earlier, the character balancing was way off.
Okay.
So we have this, this boss at the sporting goods store. I can't even remember his name, but with the unrequited friendship,
right?
It was so out of left field and so and so useless that even the character blew him off.
Right.
There was nothing to it. It was the most bizarre little piece of the movie. But we had way too much time on the boss. Way too much time on his boss, on sporting goods boss.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Way too much time on the girl that he likes, Becca.
Right.
I got it the first time, the second time, but it went like 5 times. We kept revisiting her with FaceTime calls, and it would have been more interesting if something had happened in between each one that was a little bit more nuanced or something. Like maybe the last one, she's in bed with the guy that right, his rival, and he called her or something like that. Just something to set up the story there.
Yeah.
But there is way too much time of Mira Sorvino's character. I can't even remember her name.
Yeah.
But
Captain.
But she's like, the foil here,
Right.
So again, okay, she just shows up one day at the art gallery, so because apparently she's got a history with them, with the family,
Right. Yeah.
and it's almost like, oh, you know what, we need to introduce her earlier. Let's make her go to the art gallery.
Totally.
We forgot about Mira.
Yeah.
We're paying her pretty good money. you know
Yeah.
and so it's like, instead of bringing out a character and make me feel something about the character,
Mm-hmm.
she's basically a nondescript plot device. And to me, as we've talked about outside of this project so many times, there's a lot of import to a good villain.
Yes.
And if this villain is actually revealed to be something interesting, like if she's along for the ride here rather than just in the same vicinity as the main character, and they're interacting, and there are things that are kind of, we can think back about, oh wow, this is actually a double cross, not just being told this was a double cross. So we set you up, and we laid down a phone here, and we made sure you walk through the blood. It's like, it's all just silly. You know what I mean?
We scheduled your eye surgery on this day too, so you wouldn't see.
The whole thing is so silly. And then, the whole thing with Natalie and Stu, his daughter and Stu, the chemistry was there. And
Yeah.
I felt like, here's someone who can probably keep up with Stu and challenge him. And, he recognizes there's something interesting about her. But if they had done the same thing as I'm talking about with Mira Sorvino's character, and woven her into the story more, not just that she's there at the art gallery and we're going to cut to her every so often, but actually brought her into it so that she can have more interaction with Stu and maybe see that relationship grow a little bit. For some
Right.
reason.
Yeah.
If they do that, then, and we can see there's something blossoming there, it would, and this is part of my rewrite, it would show the moment that Stu realizes that there's someone better for him, and there's more,
Yeah.
someone more mature out there for him, or someone more in line with his line of thinking, and that she is actually serving as the catalyst for him severing ties with Becca, which is kind of sort of
Right.
understood here.
No,
I
you're
guess.
absolutely right. I mean, sorry, am I cutting you off here? Do you have
Oh,
more
you
to
can
say?
go ahead. I'll continue after.
Yeah. I'm kind of like rewriting it now too.
Yes.
Becca should have come back at the end, like, an ambulance scene where they're putting Stu into the back or whatever. And for whatever reason, Becca's there. And, she's like, oh, Stu, let me take care of you or whatever. And that's where he should have like seen Natalie like off to the side and realized, you know what, she's the girl that I should be with, not Becca. And that's
Right.
when he said he has the, Becca, we got to talk or whatever. And that could all happen off screen, and then Natalie's there like looking sullen or whatever. And then here comes Stu. And then you can kind of see this, relationship blossoming or
have the three of them
culminating,
together.
whatever you want to call it.
Have the three of them together, and Becca's like, "Oh, Stu, I can't believe this happened," And Becca is like saying one-liners. So we're in an ambulance here, saying the same kind of jokes that Stu would say. He's like, "Hey, she gets me," you know what I mean? They're not as loud on the inside. Is the siren even on? Just funny stuff. But the other thing that would happen is if she was integrated to the movie, and you could see them, kind of going at it, verbally or whatever, just building that relationship, then instead of telling us that Vic needs to grow, the dad, Bautista, needs to grow, he would have to come to terms with his daughter.
Yeah.
Maybe like, being of age that she can get with some guy, and just, again, it could be a reason for the more mature relationship for the daughter, with his daughter, and the ending becomes more interesting. When Stu jumps in front of the bullet, he's like, there are just permeations of something like this, rather than, I told you I could do this, or someone can do this. It's not just in the movies.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's such a weak payoff, right? I mean, you knew it was going to happen, but I was like, this is so weak.
It was a combination of Hot Fuzz and City Slickers 2.
I loved Hot Fuzz though.
Well, no, totally. But
Yeah.
that movie is meant.
Yeah,
it's meant to
subvert
be that
everything.
way, right?
Right.
This movie was not meant to be that way. Okay.
Right.
Hot Fuzz, you're living out the cliches of action movies,
Yeah.
right? And here it's just, we're just gonna make it happen for no reason, right? It didn't make any sense. I mean, Bautista
it's in the
debunks
script.
it in the beginning, saying
Right.
you think you can dive in front of a bullet after it's already been fired? That's impossible, right? And it's like, oh, okay, that's funny. That's the
Right.
funny joke.
Yeah.
But then for him to be able to do it here at the very end, it negates the joke in the beginning
Exactly. Would have been great if his daughter died. You were right.
or something. Like maybe she doesn't die, but she gets winged.
Sure.
And then we can get that very on the nose humor from Kamail, and he can say, oh, yeah, you were right. I don't know why I thought that would work. I'm not fast enough, right?
Hey, you're bleeding.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. Okay, there were like a couple things that happened in the movie I should point out that since we're in spoiler territory that I did think were funny.
Okay.
There's like one line I actually have to read it because I thought it was so out of left field that I was not expecting it at all. So he's Bautista's in the male strip club and he's asking Titier, about the guy, whatever. And she says, he was a complicated man. We're gonna lose our third viewer here.
That's fine.
He was a complicated man. He liked blowjobs from the back. That's tough. And she said it like straight. I'm like, that is such an absurd line. That's funny.
Yeah,
It was
I
one of the
guess.
few funny lines I found. Like, this is actually a good line. By that time, of course, I was so broken by the constant one-liners. But
Right. Well,
was a good one.
here's the thing. If the movie had if all of the characters of the universe was full of characters who were weird like this, okay, fine, I could get behind it, right? But it wasn't. It was just these like weird blips of, okay, this character is gonna play this really strange archetype, an archetype for this film,
Sure.
and then that's it. And then you just have normal people walking around, and it's like, no, that's what made these characters feel so alien. There was no context around it to tell me, well, this is just the way the people are in this movie. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. It does. The other thing I liked was the sight gag with the propane tank. I thought that was funny. I didn't expect it. I was just gonna when he throws the thing back at the car that's chasing him, and I thought it was just gonna dink off, and
I
then
see.
it blew up. I thought that was fun. That was cute. Actually, I mean, there were only 2 times I laughed at the movie. So, I mean, not that I'm so, so craven that I only laugh at I don't laugh very much because I laugh a lot at
Totally.
good movies.
You laugh at me.
I do. I laugh at myself constantly, but yeah, not a lot to laugh about this one.
One part that also elicited a slight chuckle was at the very end when his car blows up and he's on the ground yelling, "Yeah!" I don't know if you can hear my phone notifying me of crap. Anyway, he's on the ground and he gives that kind of like cliche, action movie, "No!" when his car blows up at the end, and then he starts like, doing. This is where I thought the humor that I was decrying earlier actually worked, where he just starts like on the nose, like just thinking out loud, it's electric. How could it blow up? There's no gasoline. And then
he explained it.
well, I know. Then he says the propane tank as it trails off, right?
I thought it'd be funnier if he just stopped. It's electric. How did it blow? I thought that'd be a funnier joke.
Well, yes, but that's the thing with this kind of humor. It has to like go one step further to make it unfunny, which is part of the humor. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
weird. It's this weird meta thing, man.
Not funny.
Yes, it's like that.
He kept commenting.
Exactly. I'm in a movie.
Yeah, exactly. It starts to fade to black. Don't fade to black.
Yeah.
Where's my car? It's going away. I'll never see it again.
Bingo.
Yeah. Well,
That's
maybe if
going to
they
be the
went
next
that far-
evolution.
Exactly. It's going to be Stuber too.
Exactly. And we'll be there to review it.
I doubt it. I was really happy to see Karen Gillan in the movie
Yeah.
because I like her.
Yeah.
I was
Me
like, oh,
too.
she's gone.
I know.
I was kind
Yeah.
of bummed.
I was bummed too. I was like, oh, because
Yeah,
I think
thought we're
she,
getting,
I
get a
thought
lot
she was
more of
like
her.
fabulous in the Avenger movies or
Yeah.
in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies as well. It's just like she is just stealing the show every time she's on screen.
She owns that character.
Yeah. So I know I probably should have brought this up earlier, but one thing that I found, I don't know if we can say it, call it off-putting, but one thing I thought was weird, and I thought it was going to have more of a payoff, was the complicated setup with Becca, right? Like that she is going to start a business with Stu,
Yeah.
and it's like, what is their relationship here? And he has like a romantic inclinations towards her, and he has 2 other jobs, and it's like, why do you even need to establish this whole side business thing? And then she's seeing this other guy. You know what I mean? Just like she's a pretty girl that you work with. That's all we need. You know?
Yeah.
And maybe he's been trying to like land a date with her, for months.
Way too complicated.
That's
way
what I
too
mean.
Unnecessary, way too unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's for what? We're going to see her taking out some anger in her spin class. That one joke.
Yeah, the one joke, spinster.
Yeah, I'm like, wow,
That was
this
it.
is,
All
this
of
is
that.
not worth it. Yeah. It's a
And then
long way to go.
what was strange, and I don't know if I think this was funny necessarily, but it did stand out to me. The dialogue when he is having the talk with her to say like, hey, you know what? It's not going to work out between us. Like we have to realign or set boundaries in our relationship.
Yeah.
I thought that exchange was handled actually pretty well. And it felt like it was from another movie. Because here she is, she's drunk, she's ready to have sex with this guy, right? And he's giving her the talk, and then suddenly she's like, moment of clarity, like completely sober. Well, this is unfair to me. It's my fault that you're afraid to talk to me about this. I'm just like, this is like a really good exchange and unexpected, but it doesn't belong in this movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, anyway, just, once again, for a movie that was meant to be a comedy, to have like suddenly this serious conversation that was just like very logical, it just didn't fit.
It's almost like the actress had some notes about her character. Like, here's what I would really say. And they're
Right.
like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
We don't want to keep with the consistency of how bad this movie is. Well, I guess we can make this interesting here. Sure.
Yeah.
No, man, I'm very surprised, honestly, that you're giving this movie a pass, even if it's a soft pass, because I'm not hearing a lot of redemption in your review about things you really liked about it, just things that were okay.
Yeah, well,
Fine.
look, I mean,
Your call.
I think that we haven't really talked about what the threshold should be for flicking a movie,
Hey, man, it's
right?
personal. It's your choice.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I have to respect that. Well, I guess I'm putting myself in a filmmaker's position. If someone paid me, said, this is the kind of movie I want you to make, once again, don't make it gourmet. It's for this Taco Bell audience. I think this movie does the job.
Okay, and the way I look at it is very simple. Would I recommend this to a friend? And the answer is no. I would not. I would not, because I'd lose my friends then.
What if you had a friend who wanted a Taco Bell movie?
I'd say go and rent 21 Jump Street.
Oh, I've seen that already. How about another one, Brian?
22.
Touche.
22 shade. One more absolutely silly thing, but you mentioned Karen Gillan being in the movie, and which I was excited about, but the posters of the movie and some of the scenes I'd seen before, like in the previews, I was expecting, this is silly, but I was expecting more of like the dog was going to become part of the movie, some sort of plot device within the movie. And it felt like he was there, and I didn't understand why he was there at all. Like, what was the point of that at all?
Just,
I mean,
saw it. Go ahead.
I get that he's in the front seat of this new leased car, but even that was like, no, it's not like he's slobbering everywhere. He's just a dog, And again, an opportunity. Like, why not make him more like Bautista? And like they're kind of already kind of meant for each other because he doesn't have like a wife anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe this dog kind of has that same personality. He's just kind of growling at Stu no matter what, and Stu's always scared of him or something or whatever. just something interesting to have it impact the dynamic of the movie rather than just, a living prop. I didn't understand what the point was.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think there's anything obvious, and so all I can do is guess cynically, and that is it was the best and easiest and cheapest and fastest way to soften Bautista's character.
Okay.
I live in California. I live in Southern California, and I go to LA a lot. And there is a lot of value placed on dogs for some reason. Like, you've heard the term like fur baby,
Sure.
right? And I think maybe it's not just isolated to California, but that's my experience, right? That this dog might as well be a human baby as far as people watching this movie or as far as the filmmakers are concerned. So for him to rescue this human baby and raise it like a child and, take care of it, slap out the drugs from its body, right? It really puts Vic in the good guy category. And it was just a quick way to do it. I think that's really the only reason, Brian.
Another opportunity, just off the top of my head, if the daughter had been involved again,
Okay.
and there's more interaction between Vic and the dog,
Yeah.
then it could be you're more of a father to that dog than you ever were to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, the comedy comes from the drama, right?
Right.
So there's no drama in this movie. It's just like constant one-liners.
Yeah.
So give them a few things to dig on, then mine those for the funny. Would have been easy to do. Like I said, there are a lot of good ingredients in a bad stew.
No, that's actually, I'm coming up with a scene in my mind now, and I think that would actually be pretty funny, where like maybe the girl wanted, like some food or whatever, right, that Vic was eating. He's like, I'm eating that, right? And then the conversation continues, and it leads to the whole, you were more a father than a dog, and then the daughter leaves, and he could even say to the dog after she leaves, she doesn't know what she's talking about, and he gives the dog some of his food, right? See, there you go, and it's like Renee's
right.
No one understands that reference.
Just take
Brian.
bad movies and re-release them a year later. We're gonna fix them. Script doctors of some sort.
Hey man, if I had better video editing skills, I would do it. Okay, Brian. Well, I think we've exhausted this. I think we've given this movie more time than it deserves.
Yeah.
After this conversation, I think you've pulled me closer to your side of things, but I still would not flick this movie. How about you, Brian? Have I convinced you to not flick it, to retract your flick, pull the flick back?
I'm in full incline flick position, my friend.
Oof.
Flick it. Flick it hard.
Unforgiving.
Goodbye, last viewer.
Indeed. Okay. Well, if you... actually, Brian, you want to send us out here?
Sure. If you enjoyed what you have seen today, please like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Tell an enemy, because this is a wonderful...
That's all we have left. Our enemies.
That's it. Hope you liked it. Comment below. Blah, blah, blah. See you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.